Contrary to popular belief, corona is not a hoax. The virus is real. Be responsible. Wear a mask. Wash your hands with soap and water and avoid crowded places. Maintain physical distancing. Be responsible. Together, we can overcome the pandemic.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
It's also equally confessed.
Now 500 naira they collect them.
If you no talk, then go beat you.
Now 2,500 they pay.
Hello and welcome to What Are You Saying? #Ways, where we talk about topics in the news as it affects us all. I am Usaiwa Mestale, and today I'm joined by the amazing, lovely Elsie Godwin. She's wearing the Elsie dress, a very lovely dress, I must say.
Hi, darling.
Hi, Elsie Godwin.
How are you?
I love everything about you today.
Thank
There's just something very. Very like that. How are you, Elsie?
I'm fine, thank you.
We lost a lot of time, so we really can't do so much of banter, you know, right? So, but today we're talking child safety online safety for children.
Yeah.
And here's what we found as today's quote: safety does not come instantly. It does not happen by accident. You should implement it consistently. This is from an unknown source. All right, so as we said earlier, we're talking child safety. So how do we ensure child safety online, given that children are unavoidably online? You understand, these days they have to do things online. So how do we ensure their safety when they are online? Chukwuemeka Moye is here to talk to us, but first we'll take a break to see what we found in the news. You're still watching Ways now. On July 7th recognizes Global Forgiveness Day. The day and other forgiveness days like it encourages forgiveness as part of an element of personal health. A University of Wisconsin study regarding forgiveness found forgiving people suffered less from certain illnesses. On the other hand, less forgiving people suffered a higher number of health problems. So withholding forgiveness causes stress, which can lead to physical symptoms like anxiety, high blood pressure, and depression. Holding on to forgiveness may cause negative emotions and problems with anger and frustration. So forgiveness is described as pardoning someone after an offense. It also includes letting go of feelings of resentment or anger. If you take the financial accounting context of what forgiving should look like, the term means no longer requiring a payback. So a payback, right?
I mean, I forgive you, but you know, I said something.
Karma.
You know, karma. Me, I'm alive now. Leave karma alone. It's not just about what you did for me, especially when it comes to friendship and relationships and whatnot. I'm always very particular about how people treat me. So when I meet you for the first time, I am me. I treat you the way I think I want people to treat me. But when you now tell me that no, this is not how I want it and this is how it is, I will learn from you very fast. But I think forgiveness is very nice. Forgiveness is different from forgetting. The fact that I've forgiven you doesn't mean that I have to wipe away my memory to forget, but I have to get to that point where when I see you, I don't resent you. I understand what you have done, why you have done it, or even the fact that you have done it and moved on, right? So forgiveness is good for you as a person, not necessarily for the person you're forgiving. It's just for you to have a clean heart, a clean mind, a clean conscience.
So lately, for the last 4 months, I've been going through a lot, right? So holding on to something, so last week I had to take a break off the show. I literally started feeling, you know how you feel like you're about to have a heart attack because of how much pain and hurt I felt. So I literally started feeling that pain in my chest. My temperature rose and everything. I said, Uwa, do you want to kill yourself? So by myself, I advised myself, I said, please just let it go.
And the catalyst,
yes, it still continues. Of course. So life continues though.
Forgiveness is for you.
It's not really for the, yes.
That way, then you'll be fine.
Yes, it's not really for the next person. So if you're holding on to hurt or pain or somebody offense or whatever, right? When they say let go, it's not so much because of the third party. It's more of you and how it will make you feel good. I've heard cases of women that came down. A lot of women that are coming down with cancer, for instance, in marriage, right? They lived a life of unforgiveness, holding on to the hurt of their spouse and all of that for years. So I know one woman that is going through, yes. So I know one woman that is going through chemo right now because of, you know, that thing. She had cancer. So please, you stay just alive. Let go. Right. I'm trying these days to actually let go and not let anything hurt.
I think one of the things one of the signs of you understanding that you've forgiven a person is maybe when you encounter the person or you hear the person's name and you're just like you're indifferent. You're not actively planning to hurt the person. The person's name or presence doesn't irritate you. It also doesn't mean that they still have to be in your space.
No, they don't have to.
But you just be fine.
I'm just at peace.
Yeah, be at peace.
Yeah. All right. What did you find for us, Elsie?
Oh, that's true. That's going to happen, yeah. So this one is interesting. I decided to stay away from Nigeria and the drama. I mean, I need peace. I'm trying to forgive Nigeria.
That's a good one.
Yeah, so influencers in Norway may face prison time if they fail to label, retouch, or edited photos. So if you take a picture in Norway and then you put it up, just after editing it, you know what we do, and you don't put it out there and say, oh, this photo has been retouched or edited, then you might be going to jail. So Norwegian government has passed new regulations that require users to label content that has been edited. The law is an amendment to the country's Marketing Act, and it applies to only advertisers and influencers who receive some kind of payment in exchange for the modified posts. The measure will hopefully make a useful and significant contribution to curbing the negative impacts that such advertising has, especially on children and young people.
You know why I like this though? Please, when are they bringing it to Nigeria? Because you know, like what you ordered versus what it's like when you see some people. I love it. When you see some people in real life, Elsie, you'll be weak. Is this the person I'm seeing on social media looking all fly and all of that?
And it reminds me of the conversation we had yesterday as well regarding
having an impression,
especially when you have a level of influence. And I think Nigeria needs something like this because of the value system we talked about yesterday and how we have lost it. So if we can begin to police those things, I remember when there was a conversation around lifestyle audit as well, them being able to look at the lifestyle you're using. They can also bring that to social media. Maybe it can help.
It can really go a long way. It will go a long way.
Where we are right now. I think we are still doing freedom of speech and freedom of speech.
Well, nowhere near there. But my story is actually it was a breaking news early this afternoon, where the court ruling vindicates me after a very traumatic spell. That's the ex-finance minister Adeosun has said. So the former minister of finance, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun, had said that the ruling of the Federal High Court, that she could serve without the certificate of the National Youth Service Corps had vindicated her. She said this in a statement issued by her legal team hours after the judgment today. So Justice Taiwo in the judgment held that Adeosun was not qualified to have participated in the scheme when she had graduated at 22 because she was then in Britain, right? So when she came back to Nigeria, she was over 30, and you know, once you're over 30, you cannot go for the NYSC anymore. And so now they've said that
she doesn't even need to serve.
She didn't even require a discharge certificate for her to be able to run for office, because a leaving school certificate it would suffice. But when they now asked the judge that, okay, oh, madam, what happened to the forged
The judge didn't say anything about it.
No, okay, was it Adeosun they asked about what happened to the forged NYC certificate? You know, but they didn't comment on that. You know.
Should I talk?
Talk, please.
See, I mean, this is my gender, and sometimes when these things happen, it becomes kind of personal, and you feel like, sis, you can do better. When this conversation happened, we are not stupid, we are not dumb. We were talking about it, and we said you don't need the NYC certificate to be a minister. You don't even need to be president of Nigeria, right? So that was not the conversation. The point is, you have been accused of forging an NYC certificate, a document. So did you forge it or not? So coming out to say this vindicates you, from what exactly? We already knew that you didn't need it. So you resigned when that thing came up. Did you resign because somebody forged it on your behalf, or you never forged it, or why did you even have to forge it if that happened?
Why was there a forged certificate? That's our question.
Why was there a forged certificate? And why would you go that far when you don't even need it as a document you need to tender in terms of serving as a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? So this is not the conversation. Saying that this vindicates you, sis, Abi Auntie, I don't know what you're talking about.
there was a statement she said at the end. I think, let me say, she says, I wish to add, in the light of the court ruling, that I will at the appropriate time and without hesitation take all further steps necessary within the law to protect my reputation. And so we are waiting for her. But honestly speaking, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun, it's not so much of your what's it called, your reputation that is, I mean, so sorry, it's not so much of the court ruling that you do not need an NYC certificate.
We knew that.
Yes, we already know that. It is why in the first place was there a forged certificate. So if you want to really have that conversation, that is a question I think Nigerians are asking. Yeah. All right, so that's all we can take for What's in the News. When we come back from the break, we're going to be talking to our guest, and we're discussing online safety for children. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hello and welcome. It's Nimasa This Week, the voice of maritime. Nimasa This Week is brought to you by the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. Statutorily mandated to ensure that there is regulation and promotion of matters affecting our waters. NIMASA bears responsibility for search and rescue, shipping development, and ship registration.
NIMASA This Week, the voice of maritime, showing on this channel.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on PlusTvAfrica as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
Thanks for staying with us. Now, every child must be protected from violence, exploitation, and abuse on the internet. Children are spending more and more time online now more than ever before, and they are getting there sooner with better internet service providers. Now, children can also be put at risk when tech companies breach their privacy to collect data for marketing purposes, and these data can be harvested by predators as they can use information publicly divulged in online profiles and social networking sites to identify potential targets. Now, they contact the victims using deception to cover up their ages and sexual intentions and then trap their victims. So how do we ensure our children are in a safe space when they are online? That's our question tonight. Now, please let us hear what you have to say. Remember, you can send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-84663. So I'm going to bring in our guest like in a minute, but Elsie, I just wanted to ask you, what do you think? Because this conversation, we've had it several times in different, yesterday when we were talking about, the children, the rise of what's called internet fraud and all of that. It's something that I feel these days a lot of parents do not even know what they're exposing their children to. I see like a 1-year-old child that cannot speak English. The child knows how to go to YouTube, how to, with their tiny finger to be going like this on the phone. And these are things that you see, you say, okay, yes, we were not privileged to have some of these things, so we want to overdo it and we just give our children these things without even understanding that there are supposed to be some safety measures to put in place. But let me hear your thoughts. What do you think about it?
So I think it's even more difficult for parenting now. I don't envy them. Actually, these children are natives. They were born into technology, so they know how. Like you said, you don't need to. They don't need to understand.
For 6
English.
months, in fact,
they know how to get to the camera, to do everything that you can't even imagine.
They
that
can
the phone
do.
Can. I don't know. I don't understand it. I can't explain it. But that's just who they are. I think that's why the word natives is just the best word to use for them. However, parents also need to step up. Like you cannot.
You can't feign ignorance.
You have to do what you have to do at the end of the day. But that's why we're having the conversation, to know what they need to know, what measures they need to take, what app they need to have, whatever it is. Because man, I don't know how you can police these children that know more than you when it comes to tech.
Absolutely.
So it's a dicey situation.
Very dicey.
You should be able to say alone,
no, in this one you have to raise them. You have to. God needs your partnership to be able to raise them. Interesting when you were talking. Remember, there was a video I shared that almost everybody on the group refused to open that video because they were scared of watching the video.
Because you told us
of the I think they were between the ages of 5 to 6, young girls, practicalizing pornography, videoing themselves, and they said those children actually uploaded those videos online, as in serious things that even I, that I'm adult,
also using social media to get their victims.
So things that even I, that I'm an adult, I can't even do. I saw those children doing it, doing the dance move. It was such a big deal. And I said, these are just what, 7, maximum 7-year-olds. You know, so these are the things that we're faced with. You know, but let me bring in our guests. You know, when we bring in our guests, we'll continue to cover. So Chukwuemeka Moye is a lawyer and author based in Lagos. He taught at the Nigerian Law School for the past 3 years. He leads a children's non-profit like a Palm Tree Foundation. Through its various expression project, Open Eyes and Wise and Harmless, the foundation has conducted extensive research, publishing, advocacy, and training on child internet safety. He has also co-authored 2 books on child internet safety, and he's joined in live in studio with us. Thank you so much, Chukwuemeka. I mean, you heard our little banter on the subject of online safety for children. I just want to ask this first question, like, how bad is the situation right now when it comes to children's safety, you know, that is at risk, you know, them being online, children being at risk online? How bad is the situation?
So I would say, first of all, that globally, things look like they're in a pretty bad shape. So there were a lot of issues concerning children's safety when they use the internet, but COVID seemed to have made things worse, because a lot of persons now use the internet. You have more children using the internet because children had to go online for education as schools were shut. Parents had to stay indoors with their children and had to occupy the children somehow. So even a lot of parents who had restraints or restrictions about getting their children digital devices had to then get them digital devices for their education and other purposes. So there's a lot more exposure. But we also find that to some extent, while there's a lot of, I would not call it hysteria around this issue. The truth is these issues have been happening before the internet, but the internet only made it worse.
Amplified it.
Yeah, the internet only amplified it. Before, for the average parent, your greatest challenges would probably be the adults or other young persons around in your neighborhood or in your vicinity, or maybe it's an uncle or an auntie who is living in the house and with your children. Those were the risks that your children were exposed to, or maybe the risk of someone introducing your child to harm or harming your child in school. But many of these could be controlled, right? But with the internet, it's a different ball game. The internet, even the television was a different thing, because with the television, the children were just watching and learning. But with the internet, they also have
chances to explore.
Right? They also get to express themselves and explore. So definitely the challenges are more, and they're definitely more. So yes, it's bad, and it's been worsened by COVID, definitely.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what is the basics, or what are the basics that you would say a parent should be aware of in terms of protecting their child online? Because I mean, they all have phones now, internet-enabled phones, because of their studies as well. So what would you say is the basics? What do they need to know?
I think the first thing that parents need to do is to define what the issue is. I mean, what you cannot define is hard to combat. So when it comes to child internet safety, there are 4 issues that you have to think about. First, there's the issue of content, which is a major issue. You talked about 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds being exposed to pornography, and not just being exposed, beginning to act out what they had seen online. And that's an issue of content. There's the risk that when a child goes online, the child will see content that is for an older age, where
it's not age inappropriate. Yeah.
Age inappropriate content, maybe sexual content, maybe content relating to drinking or smoking. And of course, these are issues that children should not be exposed to before 16 or 18, depending on the jurisdiction where they are. Then there is conduct. Conduct has to do with the fact that when a child goes online, they could act in a particular way that could harm them or harm others. I don't know if you followed the recent event that happened. I think it was in March or April, where a young lady, Naomi, was appointed as head of Vogue magazine, Teens Vogue in the United States, and she had to step down due to posts that she had made on Twitter about almost 10 years ago. You know, this thing that happens where you're appointed to a position, people go back and dig up some of your old tweets. And she was a teenager when she made those posts online. And I'm very sure that at the time, she never ever thought that that would happen to her and all. So these are issues that happen. So there's conduct. A child can do something today that may look innocuous or look normal, but in the next few years, in fact, there have been incidences where schools like Harvard resigned the admission of students over racist or homophobic posts that the children may have posted online several years back. So that's the issue of conduct. There's the issue of contact. You talked about children meeting pedophiles. There's the issue of online grooming, the fact that when children go online, they could get in, online dating is a big deal. Interestingly, in 2000, and I wish I talked to you about this before the program, in 2016, we conducted a survey between 2016 and 2017 of over 3,000 children across several states in Nigeria. And the results were quite shocking in terms of the exposure of these young children to issues like online dating. For us adults, online dating is something you joke about with, right? The children were between 11 and 16. These were secondary school students. And you see that quite a reasonable number. So different issues, right? We wanted to find out the level of exposure to pornography, level of exposure to online betting, online fraud, sexting. And you see, of course, the numbers were varying, but you will find out that a lot of children are facing these issues online, and their parents and their teachers are not aware of them. So we had young children who were saying that they're in relationships with people they had never met one-on-one, right? And these are things that happen very often, where you have a young person wanting to meet somebody they've met online, and something else could happen, like what happened with Cynthia Sukogu many years ago, the Facebook incident, lady who met people on Facebook and then had a meeting with them, and it turned out that they actually just wanted her money and they murdered her. So then there's also the issue of commercialization, which is a serious issue in Africa, where young persons are exposed to online betting, online gambling. Now, people should not be gambling where they are below 18, right? But because our rules are lax in Africa, you have a lot of young persons who are engaging in online gambling and online betting, and we don't have strong rules to deal with these issues. Then there's also the issue of data privacy, the fact that a platform could utilize a child's data in a way that they should not, thus infringing on the right. So if parents are able to understand these 4 issues, you're able to know because the measures to deal with one may be different from the measure to deal with the other. So while you might tell a child, you have a strict rule in the house that you cannot meet with a stranger you have met online, that may be a rule that will deal with the issue of contact, but it may not solve the issue of content.
Or it may not solve the issue of grooming.
Yeah, it may not solve the issue of grooming. So if parents know what the issues are, you'll be able to easily know what steps to take to challenge to deal with the various issues. Yeah. So parents have to understand what the online safety issues are, and then they'll be able to know what measure to deal with. But many parents, another issue we find is that many parents are only concerned about screen time. So for many parents, you're spending too much time on the phone, you're spending too much time. That's not the major issue. Right? You want to talk about what the child is doing online, actually.
I think that screen time is really what we are concerned about. Okay, so during the initial lockdown for COVID, I remember, there's this game that my children are actually older, they're teenagers.
Roblox?
Not be Roblox, no, Fortnite.
Fortnite, okay.
Oh, wow. So Fortnite, Fortnite, they will be there, you understand, to some extent. There was a day I woke up at 6 a.m. My son was still eyes wide open, and he had been playing it from the previous day. Do you understand? So I was really in fact, that day I pulled the entire PlayStation and mopped it up, and they didn't see it for 2 days. But this is something that a lot of parents, because that Fortnite is not like it's only your child that is awake at that time.
It's playing with other
It is connected online, so they are able to do that. And when they are done with that, they now move to YouTube. When they're not playing, they're on YouTube watching. There's a guy that has a YouTube page that's watching, and as they are doing all of that, pop-ups are coming.
Definitely.
So how do you even try to monitor this kind of child, and how do you even put a control in those kind of things? Because even as they are playing the game, they are talking to each other.
Yeah.
So how would we know whether there's somebody amongst them
that is not their age
that is doing that with them? How do you even know? So, and you can't deprive them to say, okay, they cannot play the game, because a lot of parents were confused as to what to do to occupy these children.
So another way to think through these issues is to think of it from the spectrums of opportunity and risk, right? And like you just rightly said, you don't want to take games away from children totally. Yes, we do not want children to meet strangers online, but they have to go online. They have to go online for education's sake. They have to go online for communication's sake. Whether it's to have a phone you can reach them on when you are at work. They have to discuss with their friends. So there are a lot of advantages, right, that make children. And the truth is, one thing with the internet and media is that the advantages, in all fairness, to a large extent, right, I would say it's a net positive, right? You may look at it from a different perspective, but it's a net positive because the media enables your work, enables a lot of things. But the challenges are usually more pronounced, right? So we like to focus on the negatives, but with children, the reality is that they are more exposed to the negatives because they are a vulnerable set, right? But if you look at it first from the spectrum of opportunities, okay, the child has to play games and all that, then you begin to say, okay, how do I bring in moderation into this, right? Yes, the child has to play games, but maybe I should set hours around the gaming. So you can't play games for more than 2 hours, or you can only play game when you have done this activity. Or so parents have different rules. Now it now depends on your parenting style, right? And that's what we usually say for us as an organization. We usually say that while a lot of parents are concerned about online safety, it's not so much about online safety as much as it's about parenting. Yeah, so your parenting style to a large extent will determine. We had televisions in our homes, right? Although we could sketch around some of the rules our parents placed, but you know the kind of rules parents used to place around TV many years ago and the steps that they took, right? In some houses, you could not watch TV. I'll go to school back then and my friends were talking about certain shows. I could not watch those shows because you could not watch TV during weekdays. So there are different rules.
I will share my experience.
Yes. I would like to, yeah. So if you're able to set rules around those opportunities you're exposing the child to, is the first step to dealing with those issues.
I still want to stay on content. So these platforms, I know for YouTube now we have something called YouTube for Kids here. What is the role of the platform owners in ensuring that the children are safe as well? Or what's other tools? Because I know you work closely with some of these organizations. What are the tools they have put in place? And do you think they need to do more to ensure that kids are safe? Because if you want to open a maybe Facebook account, for example, or Twitter, they have their minimum age here. Well, who says the child cannot lie?
They lie.
Oh, right? They lie a lot.
Right.
A
so
lot.
If that is there, so what other measure can they even put in place to ensure that even if you have lied and got to this platform or to this point, there's something that you have to put in to verify that you are up to that age? Because we as adults, there are times you want to get into your page and they tell you they need your driver's license or your... So is that supposed to be a regular then for people to get online?
So that's one approach that many of these organizations take. And really, like you mentioned, there are rules around age for using certain of these platforms. So for the majority of these platforms, you have to be 13 to use this. But of course, the vast majority of children lie to... You see children who are 50 on TikTok and Facebook, right? Because they want to use these platforms. The truth is, it's quite hard for them to deal with these issues. They do have measures, I must be honest. They do have measures to deal with them. They have internet safety measures. So for example, you have a young child who wants to set up an Instagram account. One of the first things you're going to tell the child is set the account up to private, right? You are not a public figure, you're not an influencer, you are not doing with a public account where anybody can just follow you and see your content. So set the account to private. That's a step that you could take. Okay, there's also the option to block, there's also the option to report, there's also the option to mute. There are these options, but the truth is, the use of these options depends on the level of knowledge that the parent or the child has and the intent for which they are using media, right? If my child, of which is something that happens a lot, you have a lot of adults or parents who are setting up YouTube accounts for their children, right?
So they can become content creators.
They can become content creators. In that situation, the truth is the more exposure you have online, I can imagine that for both of you who play in the media space, for example, your account will not be private, right? So I can imagine that you probably receive certain kind of messages that somebody would not be able to send to you if you had the private account. So the truth is, the more
they not call you on video call.
the more exposed you are online, the more chances. So there are measures. But what people are beginning to emphasize on is the fact that, so for many of these platforms, they were built first with profits in mind. But what people are beginning to advocate for, and which many of these platforms are taking into consideration, is safety by design. So why don't we think safety first? And that's what people like Google did for YouTube, right? You have YouTube for kids. But the truth is, like you mentioned, I'm very sure that the child who's watching game streaming on YouTube is not watching YouTube for kids, because they know that there's more entertaining content on the general YouTube platform. So yes, to a large extent, these organizations need to do more. And another thing is, for us in Nigeria and in Africa, we have, the stake is lower because we don't bring in enough profit for these guys, so they don't lay a lot of emphasis here. So we just work with the general rules. And you can imagine that in the West, there's a lot of emphasis on these issues, right? Even in the United Kingdom, they're trying to pass like an
really
online
tighter.
safety, like an online safety bill and all that. But here we are lax on many of these issues, so children are able to skirt around. But they have to do more, definitely. But what I would say is parents have to take the lead. That's the truth. Parents and carers.
You know, so when you were talking about YouTube for kids, I remember there was a viral video that went around. I don't know if you guys saw that video where the parents came and they were experimenting, saying that when the child was on YouTube, the kind of pop-up ads that were coming, you know, were inappropriate for their child. Then when the parents took the device and they were watching, it didn't come up, you know. So I mean, that was one scary thing that, you know, that came for me. But you know what, I think because this conversation, you know, is getting more interesting, because I want to share my
I would like to
my blue film story. We'll take a break. When we come back from the break, we'll continue the conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on PlusTvAfrica as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
Thanks for staying with us. Now, if you just tuned in, we are having an amazing conversation with Chukwuemeka Moye and on child safety on the internet. Please let us hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-84663. Okay, so we have we have a comment, but let me hold on to that comment first. You know, see, when I was young, hey, that's how one of our neighbors say wants to teach us a Chinese film. That time, you know, me, I like Chinese film because I look like them, you know. But apparently, it was like what do they call the X-rated movies, right? So he bought the cassette and everything. I can't remember what happened, but for some strange reason, I know that kind of in those days you only had one TV, and the TV is in the living room. So it's not like you want to have it the way parents, and that's why I am a strong advocate for no TV in bedrooms. You know, even in my bedroom, yes, because you're actually supposed to, when you go into your bedroom, you're supposed to shut down and sleep. But we have a lot of TVs. I don't know whether it's, you want to call it, you're a big man, you have your child has a TV in the room, child has TV everywhere. I think for me, first of all, that is even a no-no for children. But I remember that by the time I put that cassette, what I saw, I did not recover from it till today. But you see, what then happened was, because you know you were talking about accessibility. Now it's just a click of a button. You just click like this. When these pop-up things come, you click. I know somebody that was introduced to pornography because of a pop-up that came on the device while he was watching. He was curious, and the girl pressed the stuff,
the girl was saying, "Come
that,
to me.
yes,
Come to me."
that is how she got very addicted to pornography. So, but I mean, before I could watch that thing, it took me 3 days.
You still watched it?
No, wait now, but it's with my siblings now. Everybody, you know, we've plenty for my house. We are like 9 children. So we now gather together. We're to gang. Like in the wee hours of the morning, you know, you now hide under blanket, you're now watching, say, hey, that's what the thing be. You know, so getting to watch pornography. In fact, that day, it was a big deal. And as you are watching, you are not settled though. Your heart will be going boom, boom, boom. Because if your father by mistake comes to the parlor, you are in trouble. And it's not like those kind of TV that you can just move. It's those very gigantic TV. You know, you get, and even whilst we were growing up, now 4 p.m. TV they start. So we didn't really have all of those things. We were able to go outside, outdoor and play. So the reason I'm giving this background is, yes, there might be, yes, we've moved away from all of that because of technology and the advent of the internet and all of that. But there was some good in all of those things, because when a child is able to go outside, outdoor to play, there are so many things that the child, you know, is able to learn even without knowing that they they are learning.
Yes.
And their mind is refreshed, because all the movement also helps with, the
body.
Yeah, the endorphins, and what they call that hormone in the body that helps to rejuvenate the mind. So how do we mix both worlds, right? The old and the new, because I still believe that the old that we have completely relegated to the side, where we have a lot of couch potatoes right now, is part of a problem that is brewing very big. So how do we match it? So if you want to give a counsel to a parent, how do we match both worlds that, so that we have a more holistic and a balanced child?
Okay, so what we typically advise parents in this situation is to say, what are your parenting goals, right? What kind of child do you want to raise, right? So how you do it is, what physical activities, right, would you want your child to be engaged in? So you have parents who want their child to be engaged in swimming, my child should go out and learn music lessons and the likes and all these activities. The internet and the online world then helps to facilitate these activities. So what do we mean? You like swimming, so you give the child a lot of swimming content. So the truth is, the content that children take indoors affects what they will also do, what they will look forward to outside.
Okay.
Right? So when you are a young person and, for example, you watch a lot of movies on Nat Geo and the rest of those platforms, you are excited to go to the zoo. But if you stayed home all day and all you were doing was to shoot, was to play games where you are shooting, police catch thief, there's no place where you are going to perform that kind of activity. Right? So when you direct children in line with the content, so for example, you like your children to go to learn coding, which is an activity a lot of parents want to expose their children to, you've compelled the children to watch those contents indoors, right? Because that would also help to stay. So if you know how to chat, okay, because, so for example, the truth is, the kind of society you lived in is different from the society a lot of these children live in today, right? And when you are living in more gated communities where children may not have the opportunity to go out and play with their neighbors as you were able to, those physical activities are not as, but there's the fun factory. Outside there are those places where children can go and play their games, right? So when you fill them with those kind of content indoors, so you are not just watching YouTube to learn games. You have to watch YouTube and tell me how you want to learn swimming and utilize swimming for something in your life. You want to watch YouTube. You've been learning French in school. You want to come home and learn and use YouTube to learn
Duolingo.
French. So what we usually, we tell them, direct the children to not just use these platforms for entertainment or socialization. Let the first thing they do. So let the entertainment and socialization be like incentives and perks. So what do I mean? And how was it for us as younger people? Your parents will tell you, if you take first in school, or if you get this position, you do well in this course, you get this, right? So if you've gone the whole week and you've not watched TV during the whole week, during school hours, you only get Saturday to play games. And for those games, you only get 2 hours to play those games, or you get 3 hours to play those games, and you must stop by 7 p.m. When you set those rules, because the truth is, it all boils down to parenting, and let's be very sincere with ourselves. I know it's very easy for us to blame the internet, but a lot of parents are busy, right? And it's very convenient for us to occupy children. It's not necessarily the children as much as it's the parents that want to occupy the children with those activities. So if you strategize and decide what kind of child you want to raise, it's easy to chart the timing of the child, to say, okay, my child will only have this time for this, and it's your choice. That's the way. It's more of parenting than actually the children and the technology. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me take this message before I take my question. So she says, hi, online safety for kids is an issue. There is so much content that is not productive to children. Basically, parents are to blame why there is really no supervision. Mr. Moye is right, our parents are sleeping. And that one says, great topic, well done, Nigeria. I'm guessing he's watching or she's watching from outside, so thank you for watching. You mentioned something about screen time earlier, and you remember the JAMB results drama. Yes. And the poor results, where a lot of people has also attributed that to maybe the amount of time children spend online and not being productive. So how can we use this tool, online as it is, to enhance the education, like you have just said, in terms of kind of using it as a replacement, but in a more productive way? So even if you're spending 10 hours on your phone, it means that you're spending it productively. So how can you practically ensure that your child is being on these platforms or using the internet and the phone wisely rather than doing something that is not going to be productive at the long run?
So I would say it boils down to, first of all, there are a lot of factors that would influence this. Many times when we have these conversations, it's good to also factor in the fact that for the vast majority of Nigerian children, they live in households where they do not have fluid access to the internet, right? You don't have broadband, you don't have, compared to, so the economic status of the parents of the child will influence the kind of internet access and safety model, right? So we typically find that for usually high-income earners who can, like she mentioned, who can afford maybe TV, a lot of screens in the house, tablets, laptops. If you live in a house where there's no power supply till maybe later at night, how will you charge the phone to play the games you want to play? So there are a lot of these factors influence, right? So depending on the economic status and the kind of screen exposure in the house will determine. So there are a lot of children who don't even have mobile phones. And the only time they should get access to mobile phones when they want to do is their parents' mobile phone they want to use to do an assignment that they've given them in school, right? But generally, it still boils down to the parents sitting down to say, okay, children must play. So set rules. Starts with social media. And let the children know. So my child cannot use social media till you are 13. You can't use social media till you are 13.
Sorry to cut in.
Yes.
Aside setting rules and saying these things, because we know the kind of children we have, right? Are you there to
that children are hackers
all that? Because when you talked about parents that have got access and that access would also help in the kind of internet safety they have, I was thinking that you were going towards being able to block certain sites and the kind of internet you buy for your kids. So I'm looking at practical examples like that to actually help people because the kind of viewers we have actually are people who can have the access, right? So what are the measures they can take practically with these telecommunication providers and the phone and the access the phone has already to ensure that they can monitor to a certain degree? Can
I ask a question?
Yeah.
Does your child have your password, your phone password?
Yes.
Did you tell them?
No.
So that's the thing. When it comes to, so I agree that
children are hackers these days.
There are technology solutions to this, right? So you have Google Family Link, Apple. In fact, there was a parent who bought Android power tablets for the child, for the children, and when she noticed, she felt it was inadequate in enforcing screen time, right? So she ditched that and went to iOS power devices like the iPads because she felt that
she
gave
could
her
control.
You know, you set up these platforms and you set up as a parent, right? So when you lock down the platform, it is low. And the truth is, to a large extent, I must be very honest, many of these are efficient to a large extent.
They're not
right? But they are not sufficient.
Well,
so you can use them. So parents need to realize that there's several solutions. So let me make that clear.
Yeah, please, because I know that they are not efficient completely. But
they do some of the work. In all honesty. So if you have a mobile phone today, you will notice that your mobile phone is always giving you details as to screen time. Right? We usually tell parents, take the mobile phone for a start. And if nothing, you can gauge how much time did my child spend on screen time last week, how much time did the child spend on this particular app, how much time did the child spend on that particular app. So it gives you that solution. Then also, most importantly, when you buy mobile phones for children, and even if you have bought the mobile phone, flash the phone and set up the phone as a parent. What that does for you with Google Family Link, for example, is that, and there are other software solutions, but I mentioned Google Family Link because, with Google products, they are quite free and easily accessible. You set it up as a parent, you can determine a lot of things. Determine the kind of content you want the child to see, the kind of search you want the child to undertake, the kind of, you control the device to a large extent. And some of these platforms give you the opportunity to even set up when the device will come on, when it will go off. So yes, in all fairness, those are efficient. But for today's children, they are not sufficient. They may be efficient, but they are not sufficient. So if you have a child who is quite desperate, they will go on your own phone and change what you have said, and you will not know.
Oh my God.
So those are challenges. So parents must combine both.
I'm just grateful to God that my children are good children. But I know that they have the capacity to hack. So forget all these things that you're saying you're putting password for. They don't have
no, it does work. It does.
You don't get my point. I'm saying
it's not sufficient.
You don't get my point. See, I said that just thank God that they are not interested in that. It's not that they cannot.
When a child has your time and
listen, if they want to crack it, my own children, I know they are that intelligent. They will crack it. But I was going to say that because when Elsie mentioned content, what was ringing in my head, we are very, very poor when it comes to content in Nigeria. Go and check most of the content that we have. Most of the content that are for children are imported content.
Totally.
We don't have local contents that are great, you know, contents that these children are interested in.
Yeah.
So how do we start to push investors into that space? Because if the children have a plethora of contents that are interesting contents, local content that preaches our morals and our values, I think it will also help, you know, to control some of these things. So even when you don't put all these measures in place, you know, if they go online, those are the kind of contents that pop on and all of that. I mean, would that not help as well? So how do we generate better contents?
In terms of investment, in all honesty, I would say this is probably the best time to be a child living in this part of the world. So first, for educational content, COVID really helped. So I don't know if you heard of a company, YouLesson, right? And they have for educational content, very relatable content, right? That helps. And you have several other providers, right, who have very relatable content. And thanks to COVID, their activities and their work became pronounced because a lot of parents had to rely on these platforms to educate their children. But aside those, in recent times, we've also begun to see partnership between Disney and some other of these international platforms and some Nigerian studios that focus on animation for content for black origin children. Yeah, so we're beginning to see a lot of that. And one thing I'm also excited about is the rise of platforms like Netflix and the rest, and the fact that they're deploying a lot of money in this part of the world to buy our content means that there's more money for people to produce content. And if there's more money for people to produce content, the likelihood is that you will have more children. It's all about the money. Where the money goes, the content, So where the money goes, the content will go. So we'll see more of that. It may take a while, but we'll see more of that.
Okay. I think our foreigner is from Ghana. He sent this Ghanaian flag. Thank you for watching us. So your final question.
I mean, I know our time is almost up, but let's talk about online grooming, because with all the things we are seeing now, whether offline and online, I have the strong feeling that we have a lot of predators and pedophiles.
We do.
How does it work here?
We do.
What measures can we take to protect the girl child?
Oh, sorry, Kenya.
Oh, okay.
Pardon me. The man is watching.
Or even the boy child. Like, what kind of content, what kind of measures can we take to protect them from? I know, like you said, it's efficient, it's not sufficient, but let's still focus on the efficiency. What can be done?
Okay, so that's where it starts. So the chances are higher that a predator or a pedophile would have access, or an online groomer will have access to a child via social media. So you have to look at, in the internet space, there are different kinds of access, right? A Google user, a child whose only use of the internet is Google search is limited in what he or she can do, right? So that's on the one spectrum. But once you have a social media account, your opportunities are endless.
So grooming is
it's more likely via social media, right? So if you have set a rule, and of course a lot of children can set up social media and you will not be aware. In fact, we have some of them that set up one page.
In fact, there's one app, I don't want to say it.
They add their parents to that account. So you as a parent, you're following your child on Instagram and you think this is the main account. The child has another account. So
they have a proxy account.
They have a proxy account. So there are all those issues. But the truth is, if you are able to successfully limit social media use, right, to a large extent you can restrict the use of. Then when the child has a social media account, restrict the account to a private account. You already reduce the chances. Then emphasize and dig into the child the essence of not talking to strangers, right? So there are two schools of thought. There are some schools of thought that also believe that you can take a child's phone and go through the child's phones and messages. Children don't like that. But a school of thought, you have some parents who don't mind, who tell you that they will do that.
Speaking
right?
Code.
So you have some other parents who will tell you that children should have their privacy and you should only find out information from them. Whichever school of thought you are on. I'm on the school of thought that if you bought a phone for the child, you can take the phone when you want and you can go through the messages. But the truth is, if the child also wants, right, he or she can hide the information. So that's why we always say that no matter the technological solution you have, there are always shortcuts. So the most valuable solution to that is conversations. You need to have conversations.
I think you've hit the nail on the head, because
you need to preempt the child. You need
have
to
you
let
seen
the child know
the way they text these days with code?
Shortcuts.
You do not even know what they are saying. You wonder, but they are communicating.
I'm telling you. So you need to have conversations, and you need to start the conversations and preempt the child. This will happen online. When it happens, it's not your fault. Let's talk about to create room for those, for those conversations.
I think so too. And you know, there was that app, that one that disappears under, is it 24 hours? That app did an undo. You know, like app that I will tell you after the show. That app is a very problematic app because you know why? The children just believe that they could do anything, and under 24 hours it disappears. Yes, you know, so a lot of them were on that. Yes, now,
which several platforms are beginning to introduce as features.
You know, which is a very terrible thing. So you don't even understand. It's true. So the children were using that avenue to send nude. Thank you, nude pictures.
We don't have time, but that's something. It's a huge.
Thank you, the sexing.
And it's not another thing. You know, when we talk about online grooming, you talk about it from the platform of seniors. When we did this survey, we found out that a lot of the sexting that takes place are between them and their colleagues, their classmates.
God will bless you.
So they do these truth or dare games, and they dare each other to send nude images. Yes. So it's a very big issue.
It's a big issue. So for me, you know, I like the fact that you've said it, that it's conversation. Yeah. Just have conversation with your children, because me, I don't have energy to be monitoring and everything. So what I try to do is to make them take ownership of their lives. Yeah. When you take ownership of your life, you will know when to determine what is right and what is wrong, and you will now be able to take a better decision for your life. Because I just paint the future for them. See left, see right. You want to pick, you choose your, you know, because you truly cannot, at some point as a parent, there's so much.
And just to add to that, let them know also that when they run into challenges, they're free to have
no
matter what happens.
Yes. Not if a child comes to tell you, Mommy, I'm addicted to pornography. Don't you go, hey, you have killed it. People. Don't do that, because thank you for that comment, because that's the most important one. That communication channel must be open at all times, and they must know that they will never be judged, no matter what happens. Thank you so much. I think we've had a fantastic conversation. That sexing one, we'll probably bring you back. We continue the conversation, because this thing, we only have one life. We have to get it right with our children. Thank you so much, Kwemaka. We had a fantastic conversation. Thank you, Elsie Godwin.
You're welcome.
Delectable Elsie Godwin. And our Kenya person, sorry you. I see he's typing, but I cannot take your message. So before we go, do ensure you follow us at PlusTvAfrica. You can interact with us further, drop a comment, and most importantly, we are planning a huge giveaway just to say thank you to you for watching the Ways brand and following the conversation. So do well to follow us on Instagram at PlusTvAfrica, right? At PlusTvAfrica. Like, share, and comment, and invite your friends to also watch, and family to watch us live every day. All right, so if you missed today's quote, here it is again. Safety does not come instantly. It doesn't happen by accident. You should implement it consistently. It's from an unknown source, but you have to be very intentional when it comes to your child's safety online. All right, so we'll see you next time as we bring another great conversation to your screen. Enjoy.
Contrary to popular belief, Corona is not a hoax. The virus is